Hey everybody, Bobby Umar here. Welcome to my daily broadcast for Livestream. I'm here with Heather Monahan. Say hello, Heather.
Hi.
Excited to have you here with us for this great interview, and we got a great topic for you guys. It's all about the good and bad of TEDx talks. And the reason why we're going to talk about this is because Heather just did one, yay, this week.
It's over. It's over.
Exactly. And I've done 5 TEDx talks, and I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to get into that. So we're going to be totally transparent, authentic, genuine, no holds barred, right? None of the surface. We're going to dive deep. And if you are joining us today, please comment below. Let us know where you're from. If you like what you're hearing, tap like, love, heart, smiley face, all that kind of stuff. You can tag people to bring them to part of the conversation. You can also engage people that are on the feed. And also, this is a chance for you to ask questions. You know, Heather is a very, very busy person, and so am I. And so, like, you know, getting us on here, this is your chance to talk to us and engage our wonderful selves, right? And she's excited to be here. So make sure you ask lots of questions. Sound good?
Let's do it.
All right. So, Heather, let's start off by first saying, tell us about your TEDx details and a bit about yourself, and then let's get into what you liked and what you maybe didn't like, and we can kind of go from there.
So my background was in corporate America in sales, and I was the chief revenue officer for a media company, and I got fired 2 years ago. And that getting terminated was really the catalyst to me writing and publishing my book, Confidence Creator. I started promoting the book and got picked up as a professional speaker, which is now really basically everything that I do. And then I just recently, wanted to do a TED Talk to really solidify myself, that other level, that was a bucket list thing in the speaking business. So as we just discussed, I submitted myself to a number of TEDx spots. Unlike you, they did not ask me, I asked them, and I was told no a lot. And finally, I was approved for TEDx Boca Raton, and I just gave my first TED Talk Saturday.
And what did you talk about?
So the name of my talk is The Me Too Movement, Mistake or Misstep. And really what it's about is expanding the Me Too movement. Essentially the Me Too movement did a great job shining a light on male harassers in the workplace. However, to expand it and go to that next layer is, taking a look at women that bully other women at work.
Wow. Okay. That's a sensitive topic. Okay. Were you nervous about that topic? That's a very, very sensitive topic.
No, I mean, listen, it's not discussed, right? So like anything, somebody had to come up with Me to begin with. No one was talking about men harassing women. So nothing's going to change if no one changes it. So someone has to put their neck out there. And you know what? I'm like the poster girl for it already because I was fired by another woman. And, it's just what I like that I did, I'm going to applaud myself here, is I didn't make it about her or about women, the bullies. I made it more about the people that are the targets and how you can do things differently to accept responsibility of how you're being treated, who you're surrounding yourself with. It's really like an empowerment opportunity to say, hey, if I'm not being treated well, how can I change this? And if I can't change the situation, I'm going to remove myself from it.
Very nice. And how long was the talk overall?
10 minutes.
10 minutes. So you kept it shorter than the normal max length of 18 minutes.
Was my choice.
Oh,
they only gave me 10 minutes. I begged. I'm like, I need the full 18. And they said, no, you cannot go over it. Yeah. But that day, I was so stressed out that day, like freaking out, stressed out, that I did not even look at the clock. So I don't know if it ended up being 9:40 or like 9, I don't know.
Yeah. I'll tell you a little story about my first TEDx talk, which was I was given 14 minutes. And I remember one thing that happened was I wasn't halfway. I was very nervous because for me they're very difficult because number one, they say tell us the biggest idea of your life, dive deep in your personal story, have minimal slides, and do it in under like a certain number of minutes. It's like, holy cow, that's all. That's a
and don't leave the red circle.
Yeah, exactly. And, you and I are both professional speakers, and so even us, I was super nervous. And I can tell you, people out there, I actually don't really rehearse very much for speeches. Like once I have my structure, I know exactly what I'm going to talk about. I've been doing it for so long. I rehearsed that one 30 times. And every single time I screwed up in some way. So I'm on stage, and when I actually did the talk, I saw there's a gigantic clock in front of you. And at one point, I was only halfway through and I saw that I had like 6 minutes left of my 14-minute talk. And I was freaking out. I was like, oh my God, I have 6 minutes left. Now, in my head, I'm freaking out. When I watch the video later, you can't see it. Good, hey, because I'm a professional, right? But I was freaking out. And I started rushing to get through the end. And then when you're done, I went over by about a minute and a half. And it's like flashing at you. Boop, boop, like get off.
Oh my gosh.
Get off. So I was like really stressed at the very end to finish it. And yeah, I went 15 minutes and 30 seconds out of my overall speech. So,
but it was fine, right? They didn't cut the end off.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. You know, like even the ones that they say go over 18 minutes, which is the max. You know, for some people, like, you know, Tony Robbins, I saw his was 20 minutes, and he went over, and that's fine. You know, like Tony Robbins, so I guess you can get away with it. But for the most part, yeah, that's something that happens. Now, let's talk about let's talk about the good before we get into the bad stuff. What are some of the good things that you experienced from the whole TEDx?
Seeing how many people support me and how encouraging people were, because it was a scary thing, it was something new and different. And I mean, I had people that flew in from other parts of the country to support me that day, and that meant the world to me. And it was such that, like, I guess it's a bucket list for so many people that people really get excited about, you know, that just that. And then actually, I had never attended a TEDx talk before. It is such a cool experience to hear all these different life experiences and all these different perspectives. It just felt like creativity in motion being there that day, and I loved that part of it.
Yeah, I love the fact that everybody wants to be there. There's audiences where people don't want to be there, right? And this is really nice because they're totally invested in the time, the energy to be there. And then during the networking session, people come up and talk to you, and it's just great discussion. So I do love that aspect of it too. I think for me, another thing I like about TEDx too is yeah, you're right. You mentioned the brand thing. Like, it's definitely good for the brand. And when I first did it, I knew the reason why I was so nervous is because I knew it would be great for my brand to have this video, to have be branded TEDx speaker. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I really wanted to make sure I went well. That's why I rehearsed so much with my big idea. My idea was that it was called the 5 C's of connection: how to create deep, authentic connection with people. And I came up with five different C's in doing so. So now, what about some of the challenges? I mean, okay, you're a speaker. I mean, yeah, you've been speaking for a long time all around the world. You're awesome at what you do. Yet, for some reason, TEDx can also be stressful. So let's talk about that.
Well, there's so many restrictions. Like, don't leave red circle. Don't use your hands too much when you speak. Like you said, I don't think of those things when I'm giving a talk. I just give my talk, you know, and I know I'm delivering a message. Then you have to set it up differently because, as you mentioned, it's really the showcase is the big idea. Well, that's not how I speak. I don't speak about a big idea, you know, so you have to really change the structure of your talk. And then the fact that they give you a time restriction of 10 minutes, I think it was, oh gosh, which president was it that said, Abraham Lincoln, I think, if you want me to speak for an hour, I can get up and do it right now. If you want me to speak for 5 minutes, I need 3 months. Because to get so concise and tight with your message and drop any other word that might just be taking up a moment in that speech is critical. And so that's why the practice, you know, that you did, that I did, I mean, it really came into play. And then I thought, okay, I don't want to memorize word by word, because one thing Kendra Hall taught me, she was a guest on my podcast a month ago. She's a great speaker. She said, Heather, I practiced so much one time for a contest. I was too perfect. And so I lost. She's like, because it wasn't emotion and on the fly and you know, like lively. Yeah. And so that resonated with me too. So I took the strategy that I wanted to, a couple of lines I wanted to really make powerful, and I memorized those lines. But other than that, I wanted it more like an outline, not word by word. So I don't know if that was the right strategy or not, but that was a strategy that I took, and I practiced, like you said, I mean, relentlessly. I gave the TEDx talk a couple days before the actual TEDx for iHeartMedia. I was speaking for them for something else, and I said, can you guys entertain me and give me 10 minutes right now to hear my TED Talk? Right. I forgot a whole line. Then someone like pirated my talk and sent me an audio copy of it the other day, or last night when I was on the flight coming here, and I was listening to it. I lost a whole nother line. Like, so, I mean, it's just so crazy when you get that nervous and you have that pressure on you and you want something to go so well, like what little crazy things go wrong.
Yeah, I find the TED Talk format to be extremely a lot of pressure, right, to deliver your best. And for me, I'm a big slides guy. I like my slides, and I've been I can segue quite a bit, and so they keep me focused on points. So not having slides was very difficult for me. I'm not also a good memorizer either, so I think that's also a difficult thing too. Now, you mentioned your preparation. So tell us a bit about how you prepared for this thing.
Yeah, so I didn't try myself crazy about the months leading up. I figured, it's going to come to me. I'm going to know what I'm going to talk about. I was just open-minded to it, but I started manifesting the minute I knew I had it. I started saying, I'm so grateful and excited that my TED Talk has over 50 million views and has touched so many people. Like, I started manifesting right away, but that was only work I did initially. Then I went a month before the actual event. I went out to the location to see it. And that's when, like, my mind, as soon as I was there and I stood on that stage, there wasn't a red circle on it yet, but I got right back in my car. I started speaking in the car. As soon as I got home, I banged that thing out really fast. And then, there's 5 or 6 different iterations that I've come up with. So it evolved over time. I sent it to my friend, Amy Moran, who has a TED Talk that has 10 million views. And I said, Amy, tear this thing up. Tell me what I'm missing. She was like, I don't like the intro. And I was so sad she didn't like it. But in the end, I improved it. And the way I did that was bouncing ideas off my friends and people in my circle and, like, thinking about, okay, how could I take this? And then I hired, which I've never done this before, I hired a speaker coach. And for 2 hours, I got up in front of her and did it. And she was so helpful. It's so smart to tap someone like that's ahead of you. This lady's been on so many more stages than I have been. And she gave me some great feedback and perspective. And the big takeaway I took from her, she said, yes, and that whole concept of yes, and if you've ever taken a comedy class, they talk a lot about yes, improv, yes, and. And she said, you're not coming at this talk from yes, and. You're doing this or, this or that. She's like, let's open our minds. And it totally changed my approach in the talk. And it was really helpful.
That's amazing. And what's interesting too is, like, those of us who, speak for a living, getting coaching to give us a perspective and a different sounding board, I think is really important. I mean, the TEDx environment is also different than the normal keynotes or training that I might do too. So it's important for us. When I train people, like, I'll train speakers who are, for example, just in corporate or giving a presentation, but then a TEDx speaker is a different thing in terms of ability and storytelling and things like that. So it's important to understand that too. Did you actually write out the entire speech?
I did.
Because me too. I think it's the only time I've ever written out my entire speech word for word, and then started working on that to break it down in a way that I can memorize most of it and just kind of. It took a while to figure that out, but that's what I did. I wrote out the entire thing first, and then I just started regurgitating over and over.
Yeah, same.
And what about some other things that like let's say you're speaking at TEDx talk, and there's an organizer that, let's say, we want to bring Heather Monahan. What would be some of your tips for them to make sure that TED Talk is something that you'll have a more positive experience, let's say, or the best positive experience?
So you want me to give some tips to people who wanted to do a TED Talk on what the best way to do it is, like how they can perform?
Well, actually, no, that's a great question, but I was thinking more about the organizers. What can the organizers do to make it more great for you, better for you?
Well, listen, you and I discussed this, right? Like, expectations, professionalism, organization, just like approach it the same way you would any business opportunity. And that's, let's all get on the same page. Let's communicate everything far in advance. I can't tell you the amount of things that happen last minute, this just, sorry, we forgot to tell you guys this, or you have to be here for this. And, all that craziness that starts ensuing when you're coming up on something really big is just adding more stress to it that nobody needs, So I guess the more organized they can be and the further in advance. And why don't they have something in writing that, like, spells all this stuff out? Because there should be a document that goes out to everyone that I'll create it for them. They need to have it for people, to say, here's the best tips and takeaways, and, just, I guess, more information flow and just organization would be huge.
One thing I'll add to that, Heather, is that, different TED Talks are better and more organized than others, right? So I can tell you, having done 4 TED, or I've done 5 now, but the first 4 I did, I learned that some are good and some are bad. What are some of the good ones? One good one was they selected me 9 months before it happened, and they were organized 6 months before things were going. The really bad one, they asked me 2 months before, and they didn't have a social media presence. They had poor lighting. Next thing you know, the video I didn't get access to, which sucked for me. Because for me, as a professional speaker, I'm doing TEDx Talk because I want the video, and I want that. Branding's nice, but I really want the video of me speaking. For the And so, yeah, for me, I've learned which ones are good, which are bad. I've said no to some. I say yes to some. But, for me, how it's organized really is telling, because there's definitely a big difference. Sometimes, it's a first-time TEDx Talk. I mean, it's a good way to get the talk at the first time. But once they've been established, they're pretty organized with it. And so there's some that are much better than others.
Would you do another one?
Well, yeah, because I still have my another big idea that I've had like two main ideas I've had for years, and then when one came along, I was like, I want to give this talk. Actually, I'll share another crazy nightmare story about this one. So I had my talk, and I proposed it. It was basically about the power of something about hugs, right? The history and mystery of hugs. And then they sent me an email about a week or two before saying, oh, by the way, we had a talk like this similar done last year in the same city. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's bad. I don't want that. And I saw it. It was like almost exact same topic. And I was like, this is terrible. I have to completely change the thing. So I had to reshift the entire thing. And I wish they told me earlier. And I was like, wow, okay. But that's the kind of stuff that happens in terms of challenges that that people don't realize. Now we have some people here.
I have one follow-up thing to say. Thing that happened to me, I submitted my first idea for my TED Talk was C-student to C-suite, which is I was an average student and got into a chief revenue officer position. So that was my talk. They approved it. Okay, it was approved. I already had written that one, and I got a phone call a month later, and they said, no, it's not sexy enough. Like, we want something more, getting people to click on it. And they sent me back to the drawing board, and I was like, I can't believe I had this ready to go. And yeah, they can. I mean, it's their thing. So you're kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to have some ideas that you have that you can deliver people. Now, if you're just joining us, I'm here with Heather Monahan, keynote speaker, author. She's an amazing speaker. She just did her first TEDx Talk. We're talking about the good and bad of doing TEDx Talks. And some people, again, if you're here, join us. Let us know where you're from. Share your questions. And there's a question already by Wasim, who's asked. Well, actually, people. Mahmoud says hi. Nora says thanks for the invite. Nora says it's really early. That's okay. Wasim says, how can I control my nerves when public speaking? You want to share some thoughts or tips on that?
Yeah, because hello, that was me Saturday. I swear, people don't believe. I swear to God, I locked up. I could feel anxiety. My heart started racing. So there's a number of things, and I'll tell you what. For the win, lavender. They had lavender backstage. I was snorting the lavender. I mean, literally putting it in my nose because I wanted to be able to smell it when I was on stage, and I couldn't bring the bottle with me. So I was literally putting it all over my nose, all over my hands, and that calms me down immediately, that scent. Tapping is another amazing way to release anxiety and stress. You just go like this, and and there's exactly. And so that helps get rid of nerves. When I was going on the Steve Harvey show the first time, I got so nervous right before I was going to go on. I did a tapping exercise for like 2 minutes. Boom, I was fine. Yeah. Another thing that I do is I always write notes on the bottom of my shoes. So when I'm in a confident mode, I write down, you will kill this. You will slay. You own this. You own the talk. The talk does not own you. Like, I write all this stuff when I'm fired up, like after I go for a run. So then when I'm scared and I'm walking on stage, I say, Heather, hang on, check back with yourself. And I look down at my shoes to see, oh yeah, I forgot who I was for a second. Okay, I'm back. Like, so I use past experiences to really level me up for that, next stage that I'm taking.
That's great. These are excellent tips. And Wasim says great tips, and Ray says great tips. Yeah, I think for me, like when I'm nervous, I walk around a lot. So I basically start pacing. And I'll tell another little story. From before my first TEDx Talk, I was very nervous. I was pacing backstage. I tried to calm me down to walk around a little bit, do a couple of jumping jacks, and start dancing a little bit. I saw this teddy bear, and I was like, oh, whose teddy bear is this? And I turned out it was the MC's teddy bear. So I said, hey, can I borrow it? And so I borrowed it, and I was just hugging it because I was like so nervous, right? So I'm walking back and forth and hugging this bear. Oh. And then when I came on stage, when they called my name, I actually walked on stage with the teddy bear. I hugged the bear, put it on the table, and then I started. And if you watch my video, people think that was planned, but it actually completely impromptu. I was super nervous, but it became part of my talk, the power of connection, which was fantastic.
That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah, and so for me, it was really. One thing I want to get into is let's talk about how to choose the right TEDx event. I'll share one thing, and maybe you can kind of share some things that you might want to look at when you're looking for TED Talk. For me, the number one thing I ask them is, what is your camera situation? I want to know whether they have one camera or 3 cameras, because for me, a big objective of doing a TEDx, and if I do my 6th one, I really want to have a really good video. That's something that I really care about. And the second thing I really care about is, part of my objective of doing another TED Talk is I really want to get the TED Talk onto the main TED.com website, because that's where things take off.
How do you get that to happen?
Well, it's rare, right? It's not like, but people like Brené Brown and Simon Sinek, when their TED Talk went on the TED.com thing, they completely took off. My friend Drew Dudley, same thing. His TEDx talk was 6 minutes long. He got on the main thing. He took off. And so for me, I'd love to be able to get on that thing. My 4th one, I thought I put together the best TED Talk ever. And I screwed up by using Grover in my slides, which of course is, there's copyright issues. And even though I thought the talk was good, I don't think that they like the slides having Grover in it. So that didn't go well for me. So for me, those are 2 things I think about if I were to do another TED Talk. Now, what about you? What would you look for in terms of that?
We are coming at things so differently, though, because people were asking you to do TED Talks. No one was asking me to do one. So I was pitching just everybody. What I do is I took out a Google alert on TEDx. So anytime TEDx anywhere in the country was posting, looking for speakers, I was submitting. And so for me, it wasn't about strategically picking. I also didn't know what you just taught me, which is there are some poorly run events that you might not even get that video. I would have won Richter if somebody did not capture this video. After you work so hard for something, right? And then you force yourself through that anxiety, that fear, and you get on that red dot with that ticker going in your face. There's a lot of, it's a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
You're so proud of yourself when you're done, so relieved. But to find out that you don't get that video, that would be horrible. I'm lucky that the organization that I worked with in Boca Raton was very well done. There was 4 different video people. It looked very professional. I'm sure I'm getting the video, and someone pirated it anyway, so it's already there, So I guess to me, now that you've educated me on this, I would be very selective. I would do my homework. I'd go to their different sites, but this time I didn't really understand that. I just thought the brand TEDx was so high level that there would never be any issue with that.
Yeah, and I think that it's important for us to know these things. I didn't know either, and I wish I had my manager for a second talk, because you would have given them hell, which would have been nice. Because I'm too much of a teddy bear. I'm too nice, and sometimes I get walked over. So that's.
Well, then you just call me next time. I got your back.
That's really funny. The other thing is when it comes to TED Talks, is like understanding. Here's a question I'll ask you: do you want to be the star of the speakers? So, for example, one of the talks I did, I was kind of star, and everyone else were like professors and students. They were like, not very well known, but now I was a star. Another time, I was among a sea of really awesome people, but I wasn't a star, but I was among some really awesome people. So that's good too. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good question. I like that question. I never thought of that. Okay, so I was the first. They had me be the first speaker,
Yeah.
And so I guess that's a lot of pressure in some regards, right? Like, so if you're considered one of the stars or whatever, it's a lot of pressure because they want you selling tickets. They want you promoting the event. They want you to be the kickoff speaker. They want you to bring the house down. So that's even adding more pressure on top of you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also, when it's done, it's like such an amazing feeling, right? So I think, to me, there was both for me, because there was this one guy, he was a former executive from Disney, chief of innovation, I believe is his title. Super creative, super, this guy is major, and I was so excited to be able to be around him. And then one of the fathers whose daughter had been shot in the Parkland shooting, he just being around him and seeing how he has evolved from such a horrific thing in his life, and listening to his courage and getting to know him. I mean, I was in tears watching his speech, and when he was leaving, I was hugging. I felt so connected to this man. So I guess there's so many different kinds of stars. It's not just whoever has the biggest social media following. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that my general take, having done both, is I prefer the one where there's a much more star quality or quality of story or situations amongst the group. When I heard with the one where it was like mostly professors and universities, and I was brought in, me and 2 or 3 other people were brought as the stars. It wasn't as valuable to me as an audience member, which I didn't get as much out of it, because I wanted to get more from it. But when I'm with a group of other people, like my first one, there was a lot of amazing people there, and I was like, wow, this is so great. The bad part was it's you went first, great. Another tip I'll say is, man, do not go last. It is the worst, because I was so stressed out, right? So like that first one, I saw the guy open, and it was like, boom, he was so good. Then I saw this amazing speech by my friend Drew Dudley, and I was like, wow. I was like, oh my gosh, and I wasn't on until 5 p.m. And I was just so nervous. I couldn't enjoy the networking. And, oh man! So now I like to go before lunch, like get me done in the morning. So I can enjoy lunch. I can talk to people. That to me is really important.
But that's a tip for anyone that's speaking at anything. One of the things, I was interviewing Sarah Blakely and Jesse Itzler on stage at a conference a month ago in Boston. And there were so many different speakers that day and so many high caliber, high profile people. And a lot of people will say, oh, I'm going to go out and watch. I do not do that. I go lock myself in my green room. I don't want to see anybody. I put my headphones on. I have a playlist that I rock out to. It's all Thug Life rap from the 90s. And I get into like this really great headspace about how I'm going to kill it and how I'm going to own that stage. And I fire myself up. And then I tell them 2 minutes before I'm going on, just knock on the door and I'll come out and rock it. Because if I focus on, oh, there's this celebrity and this one, and I get nervous, I don't want to put myself in a situation where I could make myself nervous. So instead, I know what routine works for me, and that I would not be able to watch other speakers. No.
Wow. Okay. Well, and that's good to know too. So you do the same kind of tactic when you go to like speaking at regular events too. Is that right?
I'm like a creature of habit. I always do the same thing. But when I do it, it tells me that I'm about to go do a great job, because the last time I did a great job. Like I see it. It like plays out in my mind.
Right. Now, you talked about how it was a stressful experience, but maybe you could do another one, and if so, yeah.
I have to. Oh no, you're gonna wait. I didn't tell you this. This is so funny.
Yeah.
I think I'm a comedian, but I'm really not. So I put a line in my TED Talk. I said, I'm talking about a 5-step process, which this is interesting because you had a 5-step process too. A 5-step process to create confidence within yourself. And the 5th step is, I said, while I was running an ad campaign to promote my confidence, I do it while looking at a visual. And I didn't have to go far. I went to my living room and I looked at the life-size cutout of me rocking a red dress with a megawatt smile. This is like literally verbatim from my talk. And then I said, I know what everyone's thinking. You're wondering, why does this woman have a life-size cutout of herself? I am going to share the answer to that question with you. However, it will be my next TED Talk. And then I keep going. I thought that was funny. No, that was an epic fail, Heather, because the minute I got off that stage, everyone's like, oh, when's your next TED Talk? I can't wait to see it. So now I have to do another TED Talk.
Well, yeah. So and you already have an idea then, is that right?
I don't want to, though. It's too much work. It's so much work.
Well, you know what? Here's another tip for you. Okay, pick, if you really want to get a good TED Talk that can actually get on the TED.com site, they need more short ones, like a 3-minute and a 6-minute talk. If you can get that together, like that quick tip, don't dive deep into things like that. There's that one great TED Talk where the guy shows you how to like tie your shoelace and how to dry your hands with a paper towel. Like, it's amazing. It's so short and sweet, but it's gold. So if you can get a short one, that actually can be pretty good.
I do not even want to think about this yet. I don't even know when the one that I have is coming out, and everyone's asking me, when do we get to see it? I'm like, I don't know. I mean, does someone just ping you and send you an email? Like, how do you find out when your talk is ready?
Yeah, the organizers tell you, okay, it's ready, and here you go. So yeah. And hey, everybody, by the way, we're all talking with Heather Monahan. She is a keynote speaker, a recent TEDx talk speaker. We're just talking about the good and bad of TEDx talks. If you have any questions for her or myself, please put them in below. And otherwise, I'll just keep asking more questions around how to do great TEDx talks and what are the good and bad about it. So while I still have you, and we're getting near the end of this, maybe what I'm really curious to know is, for TEDx talks, did you, when you're on stage, for your talk itself, can you tell a bit more about the importance of storytelling when it comes to delivering a TEDx talk?
Well, to me, storytelling, I was in sales my entire career, my whole life, right? And that's kind of, sales is my jam.
Yeah.
When you're selling anything, you really need to bring people into the fold with you, you know, and the easiest way to do that is through story. Right. So, you know, and then it turns out that the best way to be a great speaker is through story too. So it's really important. And this was one of the things I found challenging about TED, because the beginning of my talk is framing up the idea. It's not really story. You know what I mean? So that was, I always lead with the story because that grabs everyone's attention. And I really couldn't do that with the talk. I allude to it that I'm going to tell a story, hoping that that will keep, you know, people interested. But I found that to be challenging. And, you know, once I'm telling my story, that's like where I really hit my stride. But it's like, how do you bring people with you, highlight the idea and the point you're trying to make, and then get to your story? That for me was the challenging part. Yeah,
and I think for the shorter TED Talks that I'm suggesting you do, like, you getting a story in is really difficult. Sometimes just a matter of that quick idea that you want to share with the world. And a lot of people also, you know, and another big tip I think for people doing TED Talks is when you give your idea, like when you apply, you know, because I mean, the last talk I did, I applied for it and got it in. But you have to have an idea that makes sense. It can't just be a generic thing like, well, I'm going to talk about the importance of customer service. Okay, well, that's not a new idea. What is a new idea? So can you talk a bit about, you know, how you applied that? What do you think worked in terms of application and getting people to say yes to your idea?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and I have a really detailed answer. I was speaking at some event in Florida, and a woman stayed after to meet with me, and she said, "You need a TED Talk." I said, "Tell me about it, sister. I've applied for like 100 and I can't land one." She said, walk me through how you're doing it. I didn't know she worked for TED, right?
Oh, okay.
So I said, I took a Google alert out. I just send them my speaker reel, you know, basically saying why I'm such a great speaker. And she's like, okay, this is entirely wrong. She said, here's how you need to reframe it. She said, number one, you need to research the actual TED event, find out what the theme is. So for me, the theme for the event that I just did was called Rethinking Relationships. You need to figure out why your big idea aligns with that theme and make it really simple for them. And then you basically need to figure out who is the ultimate decision maker, who's the head of that team and running the event. These people sacrifice, they don't get paid. They have to, you know, they bring around all these volunteers. They have to work so hard. So she was like, find a way to make it easy on the person that's making the decision. Tell them that you'll help them sell tickets, that you'll promote it on your social media. Like, how are you bringing value to that person personally, you know, so that you want to make it better for them. And their goal is to have one of their talks go viral, of course, because then they are named TEDx Boca Raton, goes everywhere. So then you can also, you know, allude to why maybe your topic would be able to get more clicks or views or whatever. But I thought that was really helpful, and that's, you know, how we worked the TEDx Boca event out.
That's excellent insight. Absolutely. You know, and to your comment about how did I get 4 TEDx talks without even like applying for them. The truth is that once you have a strong thought leadership personal brand out there and you have a lot of influence, they'll want you there because you're going to use that influence. Now, one of the things that I do, I'm known for, is I'm happy to promote all the time. I share my life out there on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I was willing to use my influence. And I said so in the application, or when they reach out to me. I said, sure, I'll happily promote you. And they love that. I'm also very responsive. So I'm not one of those people that I'm too cool for school, so I'll respond to your email in 2 weeks. No, I actually respond pretty fast to most requests. And so I think they like that as well. And it makes them want to work with you. You got to make them want to work with you. And when you submit your application, say, yeah, I'm happy to promote you. Here's my social media channels. I want to talk about this. I'm going to share the story backstage. I'll do the Instagram. They love that stuff because, yeah, their goal is kind of like yours. Our goal as TEDx speakers is to promote our brand and our talks. And so their goal is to promote their brand and all the talks too. So you have to find that win-win. So I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
Well, we're going to have to get you to do another TEDx talk very soon. I'm quite sure of that. In the meantime, before your TEDx talk comes out, Heather, why don't you share a bit about, what you're working on next and maybe how people can get in touch with you, because so far you're awesome and they want to get to know more of your awesomeness.
So my podcast is called Creating Confidence with Heather Monahan on Podcast One. And I'm out of New York. I'm interviewing a couple of different people this afternoon for my show. And then tomorrow I'm going on Gary Vaynerchuk's show.
Awesome.
So that's really exciting. I'm super excited to get a chance to talk to his followers about my talk and, you know, what I'm doing now. So really, I'm working on promoting my talk. That is like the biggest thing, because I want this bad boy going viral. I'm so excited for it. But really, you know, you can get me, heathermonahan.com is my website. I'm on all social media at Heather Monahan. My podcast is called Creating Confidence with Heather Monahan, and my book is called Confidence Creator. It's on Amazon, Audible, and anywhere you find books.
That's awesome. So I got to ask you, how did you get the interview with Gary Vee? Because I'd love to do that too. So, there?
What's that?
Like, how'd you get the interview with him? I want to say hi to him for sure, but like, yeah. I'm sure what I could do to get his attention.
Okay, so for probably 5 years, I've been reaching out to him on DMs on Insta, and he's responded a couple of times, you know, but never was I able to, you know, like he would always be like, oh, encouraging and whatnot, but definitely message people on Instagram. That's how I, you know, I just got Ed my let that way. Like, there's so many people you can get to through DMs, right? So that's how I do it. Initially, I couldn't nail him down to a date or anything, so I decided, all right, maybe I'm going the wrong route, and I Googled him. This was back in April this year.
Okay.
And I found out he had just launched a new company called 50 Wines, and I saw his partner's name on there. So I Googled the partner, and it's like a regular guy. And so I DM'd the partner. And I said, hey, look like you just started a wine business with Gary Vee. What's interesting is I was in the wine business. I was a sales leader for 20-something years. I can give you some tips and tricks. I'd love to work with you and help you promote your new brand. So the guy and I get on the phone together. And while I'm on the phone, I'm like, I don't care what it takes, dude. I need to interview Gary Vee to be a guest on my new show. I want him to be the first guest for kicking off my new show. And so he's like, well, I need to move some wine cases. I'm like, done and done. Let's do it. I'll guarantee I'm in wine for you. And so he got me a date to interview Gary at Gary's office in New York. So in May, I came to New York. I interviewed Gary. And right before we were going to go on, where I'm interviewing him, I said to his assistant, who I've become friendly with, I said, Tyler, I really want to be a guest on his show. Who is the ultimate decision maker? He said, well, Gary is, Heather. And I said, okay, what's the best approach in your mind, since you know him so well? How can I get him to have me as a guest? He's asking on air. They had the video, you know, everyone's recording everything. Right. He's like, if he likes you, he'll never say no. And so we did a 45-minute interview, and the last minute I said, Gary, I'm not the sales guru that I think I don't ask you for something before. I think, can I pitch you something right now? And he said, yeah, of course you can. Go ahead. And so I said, Gary, I'd love to bring my message of creating confidence, overcoming adversity, and bring it to the Gary Vee audio experience. Can I be a guest on your show? And he goes, done, yes. And now it's just been, following up to get back on.
That is amazing. I love that. All right. Well, thank you for sharing that, and I'm hoping to hear more. I'm going to start DMing him on Instagram right away. There's actually a question here. Hi, Bobby and Heather from Dexter. What's the best way to interact with an audience so you're talking to have a stronger impact? What is the best way to interact with your audience so that you're talking and have a stronger impact?
Stronger impact. Well, I like involving the audience. I ask questions of the audience. So when I open my TED Talk, I say, has anyone ever had to coexist at work with someone who wants to take them down, maybe even sabotage them? And people are like, yeah, I have. Like, okay, me too. All right. Have you ever, like, when you ask open-ended questions that people can relate to, they'll start, like, they get in the momentum with you. They want to be a part of your speech.
And I'll say for that one, what I do, one of my speeches, I almost always go into the audience. I almost always do that.
You do that with the TED Talk. They won't let you off the stage.
Oh, I know. The TED Talks even now, but for TED Talks, I will go into the audience and I'll talk to them. I'll jump off the stage. Make it very dramatic, and people love that. So that's what I'll do as well. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining us. I should do some sales day. Well, hopefully we can have you again another time talk. Sure. And then let's pick how you love to talk about. Everyone out there who's out there, thanks so much for joining us. Here's a little tip for you. If you want to remember about TEDx Talks, I actually have a course online for TEDx Talk. It's a webinar. You can check it out. Just DM me. And I'm saying the link to that. And otherwise, I'm here every morning. Normally in the mornings, normally in the mornings, 8:45 a.m. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, for the Power Connection broadcast. And keep asking questions. You can tag us more questions. We can check out the results. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Heather, for being an amazing guest. And looking forward to seeing your TED Talks launch. I can't wait to see the video, and then we'll a little bit. All right.
Thank you. I appreciate it so much. Till next time.